Hello, hello. I'm so excited. I just got this from my longarmer today, and I'm so excited to look at it. Whenever you get a quilt back from the longarmer, it's the best because you've worked so hard to piece the top, pick out a backing fabric, choose your pantograph, which is the design that's going to be done with the longarm machine. And when you finally get it back and get to look at it, it's always the most fun. Oh, I am so excited. Okay, this is my kaleidoscope quilt. I used a Sandy Gervais jelly roll and a 60-degree triangle ruler to make this quilt. And I chose a deluxe cuddle minky in like an ivory color. So this is like a cream colored background. Now, the pantograph that I chose for this was a Baptist fan with hearts. So I don't know if you can see this. I'll try to make sure you get a good image of this. It's like little rainbow arches, and then there's a heart at the base of each one. And I just think it has a really pretty swirly design, and then it has a little heart at the base of each, almost like a little fan or rainbow. And I just love the way that looks. I do make a lot of quilts to give away, but this is one that I made for myself. My husband gave me that jelly roll for Christmas, and then I picked this hexagon pattern, and I didn't use any background fabric. I just used all the jelly rolls. You create strip sets with 2 pieces of fabric. I have a whole video about how I made the top of this quilt, and it just makes these really fun kaleidoscope little images. And so here from this one pattern, I've got a little ring of hearts, and here I think it looks really cool with the geometric with the stripes. Oh, I'm so happy with how this turned out. So now that I have it back, what I need to do to get it actually finished is trim off all this extra. When it comes back from the longarmer, you have where the stitching ended, and then I've got my layer of batting and backing. So I've got to trim off all this excess. I'll use a ruler and a rotary cutter to edge up all these sides. And then I need to decide on a binding. And actually, just looking at it right now, I think I would like to do one of the teal colors. So I'll probably will have to go shopping because I used all my jelly roll strips in the quilt top itself. And this border was actually some fabric I'd gotten at Joann's before they closed, and it just happened to match really well. But I think I want to go with more of like a teal binding. I think that would frame it up really nicely. And if I did one of these prints that's like teal and cream, I think that would look really nice. Like this little stripe one, if I could get more of this fabric, I think that would make a really cute binding. So need to get that fabric, but oh, it's always so fun to get something back from the longarmer. So I have been going to St. Tabitha's workshop on Instagram. They are Goldie the Longarmer, and that's who I get my quilts long-armed with. And I talked with Kelsey, the owner over there, about what are some things you need to know if it's your first time getting a quilt long-armed. When I was first looking to get a first quilt taken to a longarmer, I was very intimidated because I read the intake form on a popular quilt shop in this area, and it scared me away because it talked about, if your seams weren't perfect, or if you, didn't prepare your quilt the right way, or and it was like extra charges for every little thing if it wasn't perfect. And reading that intake form scared me, and I thought, oh my gosh, my work is not good enough to get long-armed. And I kept looking, and then I found St. Tabitha's workshop, and their intake form was Kelsey, the owner, and her bright smiling face showing like a step-by-step picture of like, step 1, sew your quilt top. Step 2, fold it up. Step 3, mail it to us. Step 4, work with us on picking a design and a thread color. And it was just so cheerful and so straightforward, and the pricing was so reasonable. And I thought, okay, I think my stuff is good enough to take there. And so I've taken, I think last year I got 5 quilts long armed there, and they're wonderful to work with. And I asked Kelsey, I said, you know, do you have any tips or tricks that you would like to share with someone who's looking to get a quilt long armed for the first time? And she did talk about your backing fabric, you know, having 6 to 8 inches of length around, all the way around extra. That allows them to feed it into the long arm machine. If you have to piece your backing, that it's better to piece it with a horizontal seam rather than a vertical seam, because if you do a vertical seam, when they roll it on the big rollers, it creates a bump. And so a horizontal seam is what they prefer. And then just checking it before you turn it in, you know, give it a quick iron, check that all your seams are good, you know, just making sure if there's any holes or gaps that you know, reinforce those seams, and trimming off any excess threads. That just helps it go faster when they get it to long arm. But they've been really great to work with, and they've helped me figure out kind of the scale that would work well with different designs. They have several, and I think they have a very reasonable policy on if you choose an image that's not something they currently have in their catalog, they split the price with you. So, you know, if it cost them $10 to buy the new design, I would pay $5 and they would pay $5 if it's a new design. But they have tons to choose from. And they also have a lot of different thread choices. I've used the color celery several times, which is a very pale green. I find it works really well on floral prints because the pale green, it blends in with yellow. It doesn't show up too much on pink. It almost reads like a white. And so celery is one of my favorite colors to use because I think it's just a very nice pale green. I've also used like a silver thread before, a lavender. On this one, I did use like an ivory thread. And they've got all the color choices there, and they've got a lot of different thread color choices because I knew my background was this, and I wanted the quilting to, you know, this was such an intricate pattern on the front with all these hexagons. I didn't want the stitching to overwhelm it, and so I chose to do ivory thread on the front and the back. That's one thing too, is they can do one thread color on the front and a different thread color on the back, which is nice if you have a dark backing and you don't want to use a dark thread on the front. They can use a dark thread on the back and a lighter thread on the front. I've done that before too. So lots of options. It really can be a nice way to add a little bit of artistic texture. On this case, for this quilt, I did go with the cream colored ivory thread because there's a lot of lighter colors, and I didn't want the quilting to take away from all of my piecework because I worked really hard on piecing the top of this, and so I didn't want the quilting to overwhelm it. I also have done quilting where I finish the quilting myself. I make the quilt sandwich myself, and then I quilt it on my sewing machine. But sometimes if you just want that little next level and to add a little bit more of an artistic design, because you can get really intricate patterns and you can add a different color. They specialize in the edge to edge long arming. That means that it's gonna repeat. So whatever the pattern is, it's gonna repeat all the way across your quilt from edge to edge. And they have a machine that's like 8 foot long. So I cannot replicate that type of design myself on my home sewing machine. So is it worth paying for long arming? That's such a personal decision, but if you have something that you know is gonna be a really special quilt, or something that you wanna showcase, or you just really are wanting that next level up, or if you're nervous about ruining it by quilting it yourself, then a long armor is a good idea. One other thing that they do that I really like is that they buy batting on giant rolls. And so that makes it really nice because I can just use their batting. And they have a really nice, I believe it is a cotton poly blend. I think it's an 80-20, I believe is what they use, but it makes a really nice weighted quilt. Like this, to me, is like a really nice for just curling up on the couch and watching TV or taking a nap or just even displaying it. It makes a really nice weight. And the deluxe cuddle minky is one of my favorite things to use on the back of quilts. It just makes it so nice to cuddle up with. So you have all of your pieced quilting on one side, and then you can put this very soft velvety texture on the back, and it also really shows up your design. So those are some reasons why I like to get my quilts long armed. And I had to shout out my friend Kelsey, and I hope y'all are having a wonderful day. Happy quilting. The kittens have found the bag that the quilt came in, and they have decided to make that a new home for themselves. Look at all the little baby duckies. They're so tiny. They're just moving as like a little bunch. Where are we going?